Sure, I am.
Yeah, so you want us to discuss matters democracy.
Yes.
And democracy in itself, as a form of governance, is a very complex tool. Whereas most of us, most African countries especially, were pushed towards the democracy side of governance. Some of us don't have a lot of trust in it, but it is the only way that the people can actually participate fully in choosing their leaders. And you're asking me whether democracy works for the people, or does it not work for the people?
Or for the system.
Or for the system.
Yes.
And my answer would be double-sided. Because most of us, especially if Kenya is the context, would really think that democracy does not work for us. And when you ask even the people inside the government, because systems, people, I'm sure when you say system, you mean those ones in government. Those ones in government also come from us, the people. And when you ask most of them, they also feel like democracy also doesn't work for them. But the problem majorly is because our expectations of democracy after we vote are very different from our expectations before we vote. And that's why it becomes very difficult for these two things to meet. Because before we vote, we want to vote on the basis of tokenism. We want to vote he that entertains us the best. We want to vote the one maybe who has given us some money. We want to vote the one who is the most dramatic. Okay? And then after we vote, we want to expect leadership. We want to expect policy formulation. We want to expect economic emancipation. So what do we want to expect? Better foreign relations between us and other countries. We want to expect the cost of living to go down. But you see, this expectation after the vote is very different from the expectation before the vote. And so these two things become very difficult for us to then harmonize. And then now the person who ends up in office, is also torn in between. You now end up with the representatives that you have voted for. And again, it's twofold. The expectation that the Constitution has gotten them and the expectations of the people who voted them is again very, very different. Because the Constitution has been able to tell you, Trisha, that as a member of parliament, your work is legislation.
Sure.
And representation.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
You get in, and when you try to push that job, the expectation of your people is again different. The expectation of your people is that you should be able to attend harambes. You should be able to attend funerals. You should be able to be tokenistic. So it becomes quite a challenge. I have always argued that the best way to move forward, and when I look at most of the countries that we even say and give ourselves as examples, and we say this country moved from here to here, the Singapores of this world and other countries, you realize that the form of governance is usually not very heavily embedded on democracy. Why? Because democracy makes the country so consultative more than it makes the country progressive. So you realize...
Okay, for example, give us an example.
Let me give you context.
Yes.
You are in charge of Kenya.
Yes.
Okay?
The president now.
You are the president.
Yes.
You go to the people with a manifesto and tell them, this is what, when I'm elected, this is what I will do.
Yes.
The people entrust you to do that they have voted. You get into office. Okay? But when you get into office, the process of execution has a lot of roadblocks that we have put for ourselves that we call checks and balances. You have to present, things have to go through the parliament. In case of something, the courts will be able to recall. They will say there was no public participation and all these things. So our processing of things, the way we have put it in our law, makes it a bit slow. And that is what we have termed checks and balances because of our democracy. People have to have their opinion. Everyone has to be listened to. Even after you presented the manifesto, Trisha, and everyone had the manifesto, and we all agreed that Trisha has said that when she is voted, she will be able to do this. She will build this house. But after she is voted and starts building the house, now there is public participation? How far was it done? There is the question of what is the process and all this. That becomes the difference between us and authoritarian regimes, for instance, whereby, and I'm not
Like,
saying
for
I
example,
advocate per se.
which country that has really succeeded?
Most of the countries that we actually quote,
The Singapore.
yeah, when talk about Singapore and Lee Kuan Yew, how many years was Lee Kuan Yew head of that country for him to be able to see the transformation that he was able to see? When you look at the country that we've been praising recently in Africa, Burkina Faso,
Yes.
and saying the president has been able to order that things are done quickly in very few months. He has built a hospital, he has done this, he has done this. Of course, the story is quite different now, and people are feeling like, wait, he has said no political parties should exist and all that. People are starting to feel like, oh, wait, it was not as rosy as we thought. But why was he able to do all these things? Because it was not under the guidance of democracy. So there, as head of state, you snap, things happen. You snap again, it happens. You snap again, it happens. It's like the Moi days when things were a bit different. You snap and things happen. But then, as it stands now, things are a bit different. Our democracy, whereas it cushions us from poor governance, that's also a positive. Whereas it cushions us because it has a lot of checks and balances. It also provides an avenue where even the one who is the best leader has to move very slowly. Yeah.
My question was because you referenced Singapore and the leader, and you said for how long it took power to ensure that it brings Singapore to that far.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is it was the founding prime minister of Singapore serving from 1959 to 1990.
How long is that?
1990. From 1959 to 1990.
Yeah.
How many years are those?
Almost 40.
Yeah. So basically, and
what I'm trying to say
I've
that
seen
is
what our president, because I want to understand this, because I've seen what our president has started doing, and remember the president said that we are headed to Singapore.
Yeah.
And of course, he's trying to copy most of the things that, of course, if we want to be like Singapore, of course, we must sacrifice. We must ensure that we follow, if not exactly, but at least we do things closely to what these people
did.
Yeah, we adopt maybe strategies that are like what they adopted for them to be where they are.
Yeah.
And one of the strategies is having one person in power from...
No, I've not said that. Before you make your viewers think I'm advocating
why
for that.
Why I'm saying so is I've heard somebody here hosting them, and they also referenced what the president is doing, and then they are saying that he started this the whole issue of Singapore so that now we can give him more time
Not really.
to continue with the projects that he has started.
Not really. I think, of course, with respect to the opinion of that person, but I don't think so. My thinking is that the president's use of Singapore is in the speed of development and the fact that this is a country that was once where we are as Kenya. All of us, I think we are almost age mates, and so these people have been able to move faster than us. They have been able to attain a place that we have not attained. I think that is the context. The context is not that we should be able to have our leaders stay in office for that long. But the reason I was telling you about Singapore was in the context of democracy and the context of now the leadership dictate and why sometimes democracy delays things. That was my context. That you see, sometimes a leader needs to put the vision together.
Sure.
Okay? Then needs to put the team together. And then see the vision fulfilled. Okay? That most of the time will take some time before you are able to see some of those things. And that's what I'm telling you. But our democracy is a bit different. With us, it's 5 go. 5, like after every 5 years, we have to have another election. Now, that in some way compromises our quality in terms of leadership. How? Because then, on paper, it's 5 years, Trisha. Then we go for election. But in reality, it is more or less 2.5 or 3 at most. Because the remaining 2 become campaign years. Okay? So the quality of work done then in that time is reduced.
Just 2 years.
Maybe even 1. Because you see, Trisha, when you're coming into office, I come here and you have a set and you have whatever. And I look at the amount of time you take for you to set up just to have one interview.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like for you to have a 40-minute interview, there is almost an hour before that you've been working on.
Yes.
Right? And then for the viewer to meet the 40 minutes that they're going to meet on YouTube, how many hours after the interview are you
There's
again
a
taking?
lot. Another whole day.
There's another whole day, right?
Yes.
But what is going to be provided for the viewer is 40
It's only
minutes.
40 minutes,
It's only
yes.
40 minutes.
Yes.
But there is work before and there is work
after. Yes.
Same with governance. So when someone is elected into office, Trisha, there is now the work of installing and ensuring that you have a government that works. You have now to put up your team. Your cabinet secretary is your PSs, your all these things, create relations with the diplomatic corps and all that. Then start working. Then
But
after you
again-
start working, shortly later, you have to again think about the next election. And that's why these are conversations that we must be able to, as a country, be bold enough to start having and ask ourselves. And I like the question you started with. Is it really working for us? These are things we must be bold enough to speak about. But do you know why sometimes we're not bold enough to speak about them? Because we think governance in terms of individuals. So today, Trisha, when you say that I think these 5 years does not work well for our country, people think you are saying it does not work for William Ruto. That's the problem.
You want him to have more years.
Exactly. So sometimes we don't contextualize our conversation so that they are governance based. Because when we become serious about it, then we'll be able to see those realities.
But okay,